The Obama Presidential Center houses a museum dedicated to the president's legacy. Its 4 levels showcase artifacts from his political and personal life. Oh. And my friend, Barack, was nice enough to give me a tour.
My friend Barack was nice enough to give me a tour. The televised propaganda of the Democrat Party, it is boundless. And it was CBS, the CBS television network last night, performing an act of, I guess it's not really journalistic, it's just kind of television gratification. Televised gratification. Stephen Colbert performing the act on behalf of the CBS television network last night. And it is mailbag day today. I have my mailbag questions. I haven't had an opportunity to read them, but I'm working on that, and I don't necessarily have to. I can just go straight to them as well. All my time as a television news anchor and everything, did that for a while. Very good and happy Wednesday to you, and welcome back once again. We remain at 888-630-9625. And I've got an Anthony Fauci story to tell today, too. Anthony Fauci. It's just barely about Anthony Fauci, but it's an Anthony Fauci story anyway. So we've got that. And we have a lot more going, too. But with Barack Hussein Obama having reemerged from his Larry Sinclair lair, I think, in his basement, the crawl space of Larry Sinclair's house, Barack Obama has reemerged. Now, Big Mike wasn't there, right? But they talked a lot about Big Mike. There's a lot of talk about Big Mike wearing dresses, and like Big Mike wears dresses. Come on, don't be ridiculous. But we've got that, and Stephen Colbert with Barack Obama last night on the Stephen Colbert television show. And Barack Obama didn't go to New York to do the Stephen Colbert show in the studio. Where are they? Are they in the Ed Sullivan Theater? They're in the Ed Sullivan Theater. And my grandfather and Ed Sullivan were friends. They're friends, my grandfather and Ed Sullivan. But that's another story for another day. Stephen Colbert and Barack Obama. The Stephen Colbert people, they went to Chicago, and they went to the ugliest building in the world, the Chernobyl of presidential libraries. They don't even call it a presidential library. They call it a library. What is that? No, they don't really. But they call it the Obama Center. They should call it the Self Center, the Obama Self Center, because it's all about how self-centered he is. But Barack Obama and Stephen Colbert last night, and I gotta tell you, the Democrats, it's a different way of life for Democrats in America, because when you're a Democrat, all the TV people are clawing over each other, hoping to get an opportunity to suck up to you and grovel and snivel and talk about how great you are and not bring up anything that might be unpleasant, like, using the IRS and the FBI against your political enemies and how you should probably be in prison for all your abuses of power. That never comes up. Just the tongue bath from start to finish. Stephen Colbert and President Barack Hussein Obama last night on the CBS television network doing Democrat Party propaganda from start to finish.
What do you think the big draw is going to be for this museum?
Michelle's dresses.
That's actually a good answer.
And
I wasn't sure if you're going to have one for that.
And an accurate one.
Oh, okay, good. Because, the Herbert Hoover Museum in Iowa, he has a diorama of him fishing, of trout fishing. So you had to beat that. That was the bar.
That's ridiculing other. Whose library did he say? Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover, that's a Republican library. It's a library where they have books where you can learn things. It's not a basketball court in a Soviet-style Chernobyl remnant, which this Obama Center is. I think it'll become known for crime probably more than anything. And wait a minute, the highlight is going to be at the Barack Obama Presidential, not a library, is going to be Michelle's dresses. And interestingly, the mannequins that are set up with Michelle's dresses are of Barack wearing Michelle's dresses. Kind of weird, I think, a little bit weird. Did you see all the Democrats calling J.D. Vance weird? See this thing? They got together and they settle on the same language, and then they all goose-step to it. But it's going to be, I'll play that for you coming up. Michelle's dresses, that will be the highlight of the President Barack Hussein Obama Presidential Not a Library. It's going to be the First Lady's dresses, and she is like the George Foreman of First Ladies. But she doesn't have the grill, doesn't have the grill. George Foreman, grill is pretty good. George Foreman, great fun guy, great fighter, all that. Michelle Obama has George Foreman's arms, but not his charms, because she's and then the dresses, those are going to be the highlight of the Obama Not a Library. Isn't that great? Democrats. What's the matter with them? Yeah, and it's the dresses, that's it. But he's not done yet, because Stephen Colbert, Democrats, they live in a fantasy world. They live in a childlike world of imagination. There's a song there, but I won't sing it. And here's, hey, don't you think maybe I should be president? Because if you could be president and look at this stupid thing that you built in Chicago, maybe I, as a talk show host, could be president.
I'm looking for a new gig soon.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of people tell me I should run for president.
Oh, well, you certainly have the look.
Thank you very much.
You have the hair.
Well, for the record, I think it's a stupid idea. How dumb do you think it is for people to say that I should run for president?
Well, the bar has changed.
That is true. That is true. At times subterranean.
So
I don't have to limbo so low.
Let me put it this way. I think that you could perform significantly better than some folks that we've seen.
All right.
Yeah. I have great confidence in that.
Obviously, tell you about Joe Biden.
An endorsement?
It was not.
And here's the thing. There's no audience. Colbert is giving the rubdown to Barack Obama in Chicago at the ugliest building in North America. There might be an uglier building in South America, but it's the ugliest building in North America, the most ridiculously ugly Chernobyl of a library, and not a library and not called a library. It's the first presidential non-library. It's a basketball court or something, and I think they do have a basketball. They do, don't they? They've got a basketball court and no books. It's because it's not a library, and an indoor shooting range, because it's Chicago. It's too dangerous to have an outdoor shooting range. I just made up the shooting range part, but they do have the basketball court. And Stephen Colbert. Let's get to the important stuff, Stephen Colbert, because you're interviewing a former president of the United States, and there are a lot of matters of consequences ongoing in the world today. A lot of them, for example, you might ask him, Stephen Colbert could ask Barack Hussein Obama, boy, you must really regret giving billions and billions of dollars to Iran while you were president and shipping plane loads of cash on pallets and transport planes. You must regret having Boltneck negotiate that ridiculous, they call it the JCPOA. It's ridiculous already. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the most ridiculous abbreviation in the history of the world, and the most ridiculous idea, because what they're doing is funding terrorism, radical Islamic terrorism. And the Democrats, they love terrorism. They gave us the KKK and the SDS and the Weather Underground and the Symbionese Liberation Army, and they love terrorism, and they launching suicide attacks, and I think 9 of them have self-immolated recently. Democrats have, usually chasing Trump around. But here comes the next. It's the Barack Obama presidential eyesore. I think maybe that's what it should be called. And isn't it great? Listen to the kind of hard-hitting questions you get. Not about billions to Iran that they use to enrich uranium and build secret underground facilities and extend the range of their ballistic missiles, which can now reach Diego Garcia. And if you turn them and face them toward Europe, face them the other way. But no, these are the hard-hitting questions you get with Ha 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 and CBS Television Network.
Tell me about these sneakers. Did you put these out for sale? What is this?
I did not. What we have in this case is all kinds of amazing stuff that volunteers made.
Sneakers.
That we had nothing to do with. They came up with cool stuff and
sneakers
made me look cool. And
with his face on them.
You're a little cool. You were a little cool.
They were cooler. Okay. I wasn't going to be thinking of something like that.
Now those, yes, we can, sneakers. I know you still play ball. I'm just curious.
He still
at
plays
64,
ball.
Do the shoes say yes we can, but the knees say maybe we shouldn't?
Oh, more hard-hitting questions. Hey, there are sneakers at the presidential eyesore, and the sneakers have Barack Obama's face on them, and they have "Yes, we can" on them. And he's talking about the "Yes, we can" sneakers. Hey, there is another hard-hitting question. Sure, you paid for Iran's nuclear weapons program and enriching uranium because you're a communist and you're anti-American. But let's talk about sneakers that say "Yes, we can" on them, because they're here. And where are the first man's dresses? I mean, Big Mike's dresses. Because do they have a cup? Do you think her dresses have a cup to keep her genitalia safe or anything like that? Just crazy. That's the kind of hard-hitting interview you get when you're Barack Obama. And again, we've got, 460 kilos of enriched uranium, one step away from being weapons-grade uranium that they could use to make 11 nuclear weapons and put them atop the ballistic missiles that Barack Obama paid for. And I know it's not a 60 Minutes interview, but you just don't ask anything. Isn't it great? Yes, sir. Man, oh man, your people. All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's see. Let's go to Kim, calling from the great state of Indiana, which is close to the Barack Obama eyesore in Chicago, Illinois. Kimberly, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi. Thank you. And I drive by that monstrosity all the time. It's disgusting.
Oh, no. Do you really? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. So I would just have a question. Indiana had their primaries yesterday, and 7 state senators who voted against the redistricting, out of 5 of them lost their primary, and now a 6th is too close to call. So I'm wondering, do you think the federal elected officials like John Thune and all the rhinos are paying attention and might start actually pass the Save America Act and get rid of the blue slip and everything else that President Trump's been asking for and nuke the filibuster? Or do you think they won't learn a lesson?
I think won't learn a lesson. I know that's what you think, too.
Yeah.
See?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Bad.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody thinks, is that, the Republicans never seem to learn a lesson no matter what. But in the primaries yesterday, you said there are 7 state senators that voted against. Run that by me again.
7 that were 7 were primaried. 5 of them lost their primary, and the 6th one is too close to call. So there might be another 6 that lost their primary for the election.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big in the Republican primary.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's huge.
That is huge, yeah. I bet they'll hear about it on Capitol Hill. They might see it on the television news, maybe, although I didn't see it this morning, I think, on the television news. And they'll be made aware of it, and then I suspect that they won't respond or react at all, Kim, in any measurable way, in any noticeable way. Don't you think?
Yes, unfortunately, that's where they are, and it's sad that that's who we elect to represent us. So
it's what we've come to expect from them. Nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. What do you?
Tax money.
Yeah.
They take our tax money as our salary and do nothing. So
it is so often the case, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sad but true.
But at least Indiana senators might have learned something. So maybe at least
we can hope.
Can have a chance at redistricting in 2028 or something. I don't know. So.
I'm so sad that you drive by the Obama thing every day, the Obama eyesore every day. That saddens me.
Yes, it saddens me too. It's. I wish it wasn't there. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What are people saying about it there?
Actually, I don't really talk to anybody about it because I just kind of want to keep it out of my mind. So no one really mentions it.
Yeah, it never comes up. Nobody talks about it.
Never.
That's even better, actually. That might be even better. Nobody mentions it. Nobody brings it up because it's a building that is a point of contention to the point where no one wants to talk about it.
Absolutely.
That is great.
Absolutely.
That is great. Kim, wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, and I love your show. Oh, and I use SNID all the time now.
Do you really? Severely mentally ill
do.
Democrats, SMIDs.
Yes, I do. I used that yesterday when I was my mom. I had to take her to vote because she's legally blind, and we walked by and people were electioneering, and there was someone out there which I find this hypocrisy, a Democrat running for a county sheriff, which I mean they're anti-police, so why do they even want to run that?
Pro-crime.
But I said no. Yeah. But they wanted to hand me like a little, badge or sticker. I said, no, thank you. I'm not a SNID. And I walked away.
I'm not a SMID. And just leave them confused. It's their natural state anyway. So
yes, I did.
Very comfortable in the confusion zone. Remarkable stuff. But I'm glad you called in with the results from the primary elections in Indiana yesterday, and it ought to be setting off alarms. But elected Republicans don't seem to pay attention very often to these things and don't listen to the voters all too often. That's been a problem for quite some time now. Kim, wonderful talk. You hear her laughing and happy, and she's cheerful and makes fun of the SMIDs and the Obama eyesore, and a great stuff, because that's what normal people. Kim is a normal, healthy American, not a mentally ill Democrat. Well, a couple of big things happening here. First, Ted Turner has died. The founder of CNN, the cable news network, and so many other things. 87 years old. Ted Turner, I know he had been unwell for quite some time and had kind of retreated into a reclusive life for some time. But the CNN founder, Ted Turner, pioneer of cable television news, kind of invented the 24-hour news cycle, dies at 87 years old. Revolutionized television news, died Wednesday, according to a news release from Turner Enterprises. He was 87 years old. Also, talking to Kim in Indiana, I should have pounced on this more. Trump-backed candidates beat at least 5 of 7 Indiana GOP in primaries. And mailbag day. It's mailbag day today, and that's always fun. And I'm trying to study the questions in the limited free time I have. But I do want to, and I'll get to them shortly. But yes, Ted Turner died. We just learned moments before we went to break, actually. But Ted Turner has passed, and Ted Turner was a consequential individual. He changed the world. CNN changed the world, and it changed everything. Not necessarily for the better, I might add, but it certainly revolutionized the world. And there's a nice summary. I'm not even sure who put this out, but media maverick and philanthropist Ted Turner has died. Turner was perhaps best known for founding CNN in his adopted hometown of Atlanta, where he wanted to be Rhett Butler from Gone with the Wind. Named one of his sons Rhett, actually, because of Rhett Butler. Pioneering the age of 24-hour news coverage. Turner also built a media empire that included TV's first superstation, WTBS, just known as TBS now. He also owned the Atlanta Braves, was an accomplished yachtsman. He won the America's Cup. That's where I first noticed Ted Turner. And one of Jane Fonda's husbands. That's kind of reduced in rank there. One of Jane Fonda's husband. Ted Turner was 87 years old. and he had been unwell, and I think dealing with deteriorating mental capacity for some time, and was kind of homebound for a long time, but being well cared for. I of course worked for Ted Turner, and I knew we weren't old pals. He didn't come over and slap me on the back and say, "Hey, Chris," but at work in the newsroom in Washington, in Atlanta, I encountered Ted Turner a number of times at work, and honestly, and Ginny was just texting me, "Well, Ted Turner is the reason that you met your best girl," and that's true. And we've been shacked up now for like 32 years or something crazy, and we did get married several years ago now, but she, my best girl, was working for CNN as a national assignment editor in Atlanta, Georgia. I was working as an assignment editor in Washington, D.C., and my best girl and I would communicate by telephone on logistical arrangements and things for news gathering and all that good stuff. And one thing led to another. You know how these things happen. And we had an internal computer system where we could send to each other what they called top-line messages. And your message could be as long as your screen was wide, and that's it. Then you have to hit send, and we would send to each other text messages. And I only learned much later that those text messages are saved in the computer mainframe, and that's a bad thing. That's a very bad thing, because my use of the English language, can sometimes become colorful. And I know that somewhere in the computer, those things there. But back to Ted Turner. And so Ted Turner is the reason that my best girl and I met in the first place, because we were both working at CNN at the time. It was pretty much a news organization back then. That's changed a lot. Now it's a TV station. But there was an incident a moment in the Washington bureau for CNN. I was an assignment editor sitting in what they call the slot position in the assignment desk. We have two-way radios in front of you and communicate with camera crews all over the city and couriers and reporters at different scenes and on stories and so on. And sitting there minding my own business, it was a Wednesday. I remember. And Ted Turner was in town. And Ted Turner walked over to the assignment desk and put his arms up on the counter. It's kind of a chest-high counter around the assignment desk. Put his arms up on the counter and does what's going on? And I tell him about the news we're gathering, what all our camera crews are doing, and all this stuff. And at that moment, one of my colleagues walked up, Tom Dunleavy. And I mentioned it's Wednesday because it was Ash Wednesday. Tom Dunleavy, an observant Catholic, a respectful Catholic, had ashes on his forehead because it was Ash Wednesday, and he had already been to Mass, and now he was at work. And Ted Turner, right in front of me, as Tom walked up, he was the supervising producer in the newsroom at the time, Tom was, and Tom walked up to ask a question of the slot person on the assignment desk, that was me, about news gathering, and Ted Turner looked over and was startled to see this man next to him with black ashes on his forehead, and he had no idea what it was. And Ted Turner said, and he looked at me like I was supposed to explain something, and he looked back at Tom, and he said, "What are you, part of a cult or something? What are you part of a cult or something?" And Tom sort of nodded him without missing a beat. I think he said, "It's called Catholicism." And Ted went, and that was about it. Moved on, but it was a great Ted Turner moment in the CNN newsroom in Washington. What are you, part of a cult or something? It's Ash Wednesday. I had no idea what it was, and it was kind of a funny thing. But I've got to say, in all my interactions with Ted Turner, I always got a kick out of him. I always liked him. I always thought he was fun. And there were a number of times while working there where I had to deal with Ted Turner. We had people in war zones when I was at the Pentagon, and we had a lot going on the years I was at the Pentagon. And we'd have to get a hold of Ted Turner because we had to rescue somebody out of Bosnia, or they're getting bombed in Iraq or something like that. And I was at all my interactions with Ted Turner, the Ash Wednesday thing being an aside, I always got a kick out of him. I always thought it was fun. And the truth is, he was very consequential, and he changed the world. 24-hour cable news changed the world. And as I understand it, he actually initially wanted to do 24-hour sports because he owned teams and he liked sports. And then ESPN came on the air, and he said, damn, that's no good. And then he said, well, what else do you do? You got weather. Maybe we should do 24-hour weather, news, weather, sports. And somebody said, well, you already have the Weather Channel. There's already a 24-hour Weather Channel. He's like, damn, the only thing left is news. I guess we're going to have to do 24-hour news on cable. And that's pretty much how Ted Turner ended up starting a 24-hour cable news station. And I always got a kick at him, and he actually cared about his people when his people were in harm's way. I was in the middle of that more than once. Ted Turner got very involved and would put anything on the line to pull his people out of bad situations and war zones and so on. And I was involved in a number of those efforts. Ted was he was a hoot. And Hanoi Jane, that's another thing altogether. But one of America's leading capitalists was beep, 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 one of America's leading communists. And so I always thought there was something ironic and a little bit funny about that. Yeah, Ted Turner. And I got to tell you, I'm being bombarded on my text message threads by my best girl, Ted Turner, dead. She sent me in, and other former CNN people who are friends. And it's a bombardment right now. Ted Turner dead. He did change the world, and it wasn't MSNBC, and it wasn't as bad as it is now back then. And I got to say that I was living in Santa Barbara, California, when Ted Turner won the America's Cup, the sailing race. And who's this guy? This Ted Turner from Atlanta, and all that stuff. And he won the America's Cup. And I was watching at home. I'm on my 19-inch Sony Trinitron TV. I remember it well, and it was my favorite TV. And I was so proud of that TV. And Ted Turner won the America's Cup, and everybody at the pier waiting for him to sail back in. And he's sailing around in circles a bit, and he's with his friends, and other boats are coming up alongside. And it looks like they're having something to drink. People might drink a lot of champagne. Won the America's Cup, and Ted Turner's boat sailed up to the pier. And he came knee-walking drunk off the boat with a bottle of bourbon. It might have been Jack Daniels. And he had pretty much polished it off, chugging it while everybody's popping champagne. And it's a very proper sailing thing, very highbrow. And people are drinking champagne, or they had, very expensive champagne on ice at the pier. And he came off with a mostly gone bottle of whiskey that he had been chugging, knee-walking drunk. And I'm like, who is this guy? And I said, well, that's Ted Turner. Meet Ted Turner. Long before I went to work for CNN, that was my first Ted Turner moment. That was fun. Fun. That's what I'm telling you. All right, now let's see. Should I'm hesitant to get into the mailbag because I want to spend time. I want to spend time on it, so I might want to do that now. But that's a big deal. And also, I mentioned, but didn't spend enough time on the Indiana thing because it is a big deal that President Trump is the guy who went in there and backed alternative candidates, and his candidates won overwhelmingly, and that's kind of noteworthy, I've got to say. Trump-backed candidates beat at least 5 of 7 Indiana GOP senators who defied him on redistricting. The Associated Press reporting, primary challengers backed by President Donald Trump will beat at least 5 of the 7 Indiana state senators who defied the president last year on redistricting, according to the Associated Press, making it an almost clean sweep for both President Donald Trump and for his allied groups that pumped millions of dollars into the normally sleepy races. The 7 incumbents facing primary challenges had been among 21 Republican state senators who joined Democrats in voting against a mid-decade redistricting bill last year, which would have redrawn the state's congressional map to favor Republicans. Trump had threatened even before the vote to support primary challengers to anyone who voted against it. And then he did support the primary challengers. And then the Trump-backed primary challengers overwhelmingly won against the Republicans who voted against Trump and voted against redistricting. One incumbent, State Senator Greg Good, won in his primary against Trump-endorsed primary challenger, while another state senator, Spencer Deary, was still locked in a tight race against his Trump-endorsed opponent, Paula, what's her name? Copenhagen? Copenhagen. I think she's Copenhagen, not Copenhagen, but Copenhagen, as of late Tuesday night. That's last night. Another candidate endorsed by Trump, who ran in a district represented by a state senator who opposed redistricting but did not run for re-election, was also projected to win. That makes it kind of irrelevant, doesn't it, Associated Press? Trump celebrated the wins with a series of posts on his social media account late Tuesday night, showing pictures of him juxtaposed with images of the winning candidates. So big win for President Trump and a big slap in the face to people that oppose President Trump, even state senators, state officials, and that's kind of a big deal. Honestly. While the results could put the wind in the president's sails, both candidates and observers alike had warned that many local factors were in play as well. The sheer deluge of outside spending, that normally the Democrat game, drowned out incumbents in money that these sorts of races do not usually see, and they had nothing comparable to help them. The people that were challenging in the primaries were getting money from donations, and the people that were just trying to keep their already existing jobs, they didn't get a lot of money. Yes, sir. That's pretty crazy. Now, the tally of spending in the race by an organization that looks at such things found that more than $13 million spent on ads in the primaries, more than 4,000 times more than was spent during the previous primary cycle. It showed at least $8 million of the ad spending was from groups that opposed the incumbents. Well, if you're going to be an incumbent and vote against your own party and vote against your own interest and vote against your own president, and then the president may have an interest in running primary opponents and helping to raise money for them. And this is a big deal, and it says a lot about President Trump's ability to affect state elections and should be concerning to Republicans who oppose Trump around the country, because if he starts paying attention to you, it could be a problem for you. The state Senate primaries also pitted Trump, to an extent, against his former vice president, Mike Pence. Pence also served as Indiana governor, had endorsed State Senator Jim Buck in one of the races, according to the Indianapolis Star, breaking with the president he served under, who endorsed challenger Tracy Powell. Powell triumphed over Buck on Tuesday. So the Mike Pence, the former Indiana governor, endorsed the other guy, Jim Buck, and the guy that President Trump endorsed won over the guy that Mike Pence endorsed. And President Trump doesn't have any particular ties to Indiana. So that's kind of an interesting one. Yes, sir. And Powell, endorsed by Trump, triumphed over Buck, over the man endorsed by Pence. That's kind of an interesting juxtaposition, since we had just used that word a moment ago as well. Isn't that amazing? Oh, look what I've done to the clock. Yes. And the mailbag questions coming up as well. Yes. Yeah, and that all goes back to Kim, who called in from Indiana and has to drive by the Obama eyesore in Chicago. Yes, sir. Yeah, and Obama, what's the most important thing at the Obama Presidential Novel Library? It's the First Lady's dresses, presumably on Barack Obama mannequins, which would make them a big hit, to be sure. And Larry Sinclair could give the tours. That'd be fun, I think. I saw, so let's go to the telephones, talk to the nice American people. I'm getting ready for my mailbag question. Right now, let's go to Laura, calling from Orlando, Florida, who has a Ted Turner story. Laura, I'm being bombarded with text messages about calling people Jesus freaks and what are you, part of a cult and stuff. Laura, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. I'm a big fan of you for a long time, but I don't call to be on the radio ever. But I thought you would enjoy the fact that I had the honor of photographing Mr. Turner. For Time magazine back. I got a letter from him in 1990, and the photo that I did was of Mr. Turner in his boardroom and all of this. And then anyway, they ended up using that photograph for his cover for Citizen Turner.
Oh.
The Wild Lives of an American Tycoon.
Wow.
But the fun part was the magazine had called me. I'd been a photojournalist a long time, and I was living in Atlanta at that time. And I was, I think, maybe the third photographer sent to photograph Mr. Turner. And I think, I don't know all the circumstances, but the story was that, he wasn't happy with someone and he, kind of brashly, didn't want to go through with the assignment. So this is how I went in and I brought my lighting gear and all of that. And I knew that it was going to be an interesting assignment.
I'm running out the clock on you.
Oh, okay. You want me to hang up?
No. Actually, why don't you hang in there? Because I'd like you to finish your story. Can you do that? Hang in for a couple minutes?
I'll get to it.
Oh, no, please. I want you to take your time. But we've got to, because, we got to pay our bills. We're not NPR. But hang in there. I want to hear the rest of your story, please.